Wife's pregnant 4 years after my vasectomy. So I got myself and my child tested. All right, so here goes. I honestly don't know how to even begin to explain the situation, but I'll try my best. I've been married to my wife for 6 years. Now we met back in college, and things just sort of clicked. You know, when you meet someone and it's like everything just lines up, that was us. We did the whole couple thing, moved in together during our senior year, got through finals, and even managed to graduate without killing each other. By the time we walked across that stage, I knew I wanted to spend my life with her. We got married the fall after graduation. Those first couple of years were just fun. We traveled a bit, explored our new jobs, learned how to do life together. But then we started thinking about family, and everything got a bit more serious. We talked about kids, the future, all of that. She went off birth control to give us a shot at starting a family. And when I say her libido went through the roof after that, I mean, it was like a whole new person. We got closer than ever, like we were both excited to take that next step together. Here's the thing, though. Starting a family didn't come easy. Month after month, year after year, nothing. Every time our period was late, we'd get our hopes up, and then, the disappointment would hit. It was rough. Honestly, we tried not to stress about it too much, figuring it would happen when it was meant to. After 3 long years, we finally got that positive test, and man, I thought that was it. Everything felt worth it. We were over the moon. When our daughter was born, it was like everything I'd ever wanted. I was all in as a dad, sleepless nights, changing diapers, you name it. I didn't mind any of it. This was our little family, and I felt like I was doing something right. And my wife, she was a great mom. Life felt pretty complete, and any little issues we had before just seemed to melt away. After our daughter, my wife decided to go back on birth control, but here's where things started getting weird. She struggled with it this time around. She had a lot of side effects, nausea, mood swings, you name it. Her doctor kept changing her prescriptions, but nothing seemed to work right. Eventually, we both agreed that maybe it wasn't worth it. We were on the fence about having another kid anyway, so I volunteered to get a vasectomy. It just seemed like the easier option. Plus, it could be reversed if we ever changed our minds. So I went ahead and did it. 3 years later, we've just been living our lives without any baby stress. And if I'm honest, things got even better in the intimacy department. There was a sense of freedom there. We didn't have to worry. So we just enjoyed each other. Then a few weeks ago, something fell off. My wife was acting differently, and I noticed she was late. Like I said, that wasn't unusual for her. So I didn't think much of it first, but then I started seeing other signs. Her chest was sore, and she was getting these waves of nausea in the morning. I felt a weird, anxious pit in my stomach. I knew I'd had a vasectomy, so logically there was no way she could be pregnant, but still the signs were there clear as day. I decided to check things out on my end, just to be sure. I went to the doctor to get my sperm count checked, and I didn't tell my wife, because honestly, I was trying to avoid any unnecessary stress in case this was all just some hormonal fluke or something. After a couple of days, I got the results back, and my doctor told me plain and simple that I was still sterile. My vasectomy had done its job. At that moment, I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. I just stood there trying to process what that meant. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but my mind was racing. I thought, maybe it's just some strange coincidence. I tried to tell myself that this couldn't mean what I thought it meant, but I couldn't let it go. So I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I took my daughter to get a DNA test. That decision tore me up inside. I mean, who goes around questioning if their kid is actually theirs? But I had to know. And let me tell you, the days waiting for those results were some of the longest of my life. Every time I looked at her, my heart broke a little. I kept thinking, what kind of dad am I if I even have to do this? But I couldn't shake that gut feeling. When the results finally came in, I was alone. I ripped open that envelope and read the words that would change everything. My daughter wasn't biologically mine. I honestly can't even describe the feeling. It was like the ground had disappeared from under me. All the memories, the little moments of watching her sleep, teaching her words, those quiet times when it was just me and her, it all felt shattered. I didn't know how to react. I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw something, but I just sat there, numb. It didn't feel real, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. But then I realized I had to talk to my wife about it. I had to get answers. She came home that night, and I didn't waste any time. I showed her the test, the proof. She went pale, and for a second I thought she might try to deny it, but she didn't. She just stared at me like a deer in headlights. I asked her point blank if she'd been with someone else. She stammered at first, but eventually she admitted that, yes, she had. She swore it was only one time, that it was a mistake, that she never meant to hurt me. I listened, but it was like her words just bounced off me. I couldn't even process them. My whole life had just been flipped upside down. And here she was telling me it was a mistake. She tried to explain, to apologize, saying she'd been under a lot of stress, that she was sorry, that she never wanted it to go this far. But all I could think was, how could she do this to us, to our family? I asked her if there was anything else she needed to tell me. She kept saying it was just that one time, that she'd never done anything like this before. But I didn't know if I could believe her. She begged me to forgive her, said she'd do anything to fix this, even terminate the pregnancy if that's what I wanted. I just sat there, feeling like a stranger in my own life. That night, I ended up on the couch, staring at the ceiling, just trying to make sense of it all. I didn't know what to do or where to go from here. Everything I thought I knew about my life, about her, was just gone. So, here I am, a few days after learning the worst news of my life, and I'm still completely lost. I don't know what to say to anyone, and even worse, I don't know what to say to my wife. We've barely talked since that night. I mean, what am I supposed to say to the woman who's been lying to me for God knows how long? I know the look on her face when she confessed wasn't fake, and that messes me up even more. Because if she was genuinely sorry, that means she knew exactly what she was doing the whole time and still chose to keep me in the dark. Most days I just feel numb. It's like I'm here, but I'm not really living. I'm just existing, going through the motions, trying not to blow up in front of my daughter. And that's the hardest part. Every time I look at her, this guilt and confusion eats me up. She's just a kid, our kid, or so I thought, and I don't want any of this to touch her. She has no idea what's going on, and I'm so torn about what's next. After my wife's confession, I wanted to demand every single detail. Who was this guy? When did it happen? Why did it happen? But I realized that maybe I didn't really want to know. I mean, sure, I wanted answers, but there's a part of me that knows once I find out, there's no going back. Once you hear the specifics, the picture you've built of someone just disintegrates. And right now, I don't think I can handle that. My mind's already torturing me with every possible scenario, every what if. I've been keeping myself busy, though, just to stay sane. Between work and avoiding eye contact with my wife, I keep thinking about what I'm supposed to do next. Should I stay with her? Work it out for the sake of our daughter? Or should I just cut my losses? It feels like both options are garbage, honestly. And yeah, maybe I'm overthinking. But what else can I do when every quiet moment just brings up more questions? The few words we've exchanged have been awkward as hell. She tries to be nice, asks if I want something to eat or if I'm okay. But it just feels wrong. It's like she's trying to put a Band-Aid on a sinking ship. She's been around more, hovering, almost like she's afraid I'll pack up and leave the second she turns her back. The weirdest part is, I almost feel bad for her, which is ridiculous. She's the one who put us here. And yet here I am, feeling bad because she looks sad and worried. It's messed up. Last night, I finally broke down and asked her to tell me everything. I couldn't hold it in anymore. She took a deep breath, hesitated, and then started to talk. The whole time she was explaining, I was just staring at her, trying to see any sign that she was lying. It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. She went on about how she was feeling overwhelmed with parenting, the stress, the routines, the exhaustion, and I get that. Parenting is tough, but is it tough enough to destroy a family? Her excuse felt like a slap in the face. She swore up and down that it was a one-time thing, just a stupid moment that didn't mean anything. She kept saying it didn't mean anything, but to me, it meant everything. All I could think was, how could she throw everything we had for something so meaningless? And the worst part? She had the nerve to look at me like she was the one who'd been wronged when I didn't respond. I mean, what was I supposed to say? I felt like nothing I said would be enough to get through to her. I went to bed without saying anything back. Just lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to process. And at some point, I must have fallen asleep because I woke up to my daughter poking me in the ribs, all bright-eyed and happy like kids always are. She has no idea. And it's killing me to pretend that everything's normal when my entire world just imploded. I put on my game face for her and took her to school, try to focus on the little things to keep myself from spiraling. After I drop her off, I went for a long drive. No destination, just driving. I needed space, air, something to make me feel less trapped. Everything's just been so heavy lately, and I thought maybe being out of the house would help me breathe. But the problem is, no matter how far I go, this mess is waiting for me when I get back. It's weird how your mind plays tricks on you in situations like this. I started remembering all these moments from years ago, little things I'd overlooked. Times she'd been a little late, a little distant. Conversations where she'd brush things off or laugh nervously. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Now, I feel like a fool for not seeing the signs, for not asking the right questions. I eventually pulled over, sat on the side of the road for what felt like hours. I was just sitting there thinking, how did we get here? We were supposed to be building this life together. And now, I feel like I don't even know the person I married. Worse, I don't know if I can ever know her again. When I finally got home, I didn't even want to go inside. I stood in the driveway for a while, just looking at the house, thinking about everything that happened here. Every memory now feels tainted, like I'll never be able to see any of it the same way again. But I had to go in eventually. Can't just stand out there forever, right? Inside, my wife was waiting in the living room, clearly nervous. She tried to talk to me, again with the, "I'll do anything to make it right" speech. She even asked if we should go to therapy, but I'm not sure therapy can fix this. I told her straight up, I don't know if I can forgive this. The words hung in the air between us, heavy and cold. She looked devastated, and yeah, maybe part of me felt a small pang of guilt. But mostly I just felt drained. I ended up retreating to the couch again. I just can't bring myself to sleep next to her right now. The sight of her, the sound of her voice, even the smell of her perfume, it all feels foreign. Like she's some stranger who just happens to live here. And the strangest part is, she's trying so hard. And I don't know if it's out of guilt or some messed up sense of duty. This whole thing has made me question everything. Not just her, but myself too. Like, was I ever enough? Was there something I missed or failed to do? And maybe I'll never get those answers. Maybe it doesn't even matter anymore. But right now, I'm caught in this nightmare and I can't seem to wake up. I guess I'm just taking it day by day, trying to figure out what to do, where to go from here. It feels impossible to decide anything when my head's spinning like this. It's been a rough week. Everything feels heavy, like there's this constant weight on me that won't lift. My wife's been hovering around, trying to find ways to fix things, as she puts it. It feels forced. There are all these awkward attempts from her to be friendly, like cooking my favorite meals, asking me how my day was, and even suggesting we go on a family outing. It's like she thinks she can just distract me from the fact that she betrayed me. But I get it. Maybe this is her way of trying to show she's sorry. It's hard to sit here and listen to her acting like things are normal when they're anything, but when I don't respond the way she wants, she gets this defeated look which only makes things worse because then I feel guilty for not giving her anything back. But honestly, what does she expect? I've been running everything through my head, every little detail, every moment we had. Every time she's been late or distant, the paranoia is setting in. I start to question if there were more moments like this, if she had been hiding things from me all along, and if there are other skeletons waiting to tumble out of the closet. Then, in the middle of this endless loop of suspicion, I got a text from an old friend of ours, Tom. He's one of those guys who was around during our college years. Close enough to be part of our group, but not close enough to know all the intimate details. Tom says he heard from someone about our issues. I didn't even know what to make of that message, honestly. And I asked him what he meant. Tom replies, I heard about the pregnancy thing. You doing okay? I swear my stomach dropped. Here I am, thinking this whole situation was something private, just between my wife and me, and somehow other people already know. I asked him how he found out, and he tells me he overheard a couple of people from our college group talking. And who's the one who spilled the beans? None other than my wife's best friend, Sarah. Sarah and my wife have been inseparable since college. When I say inseparable, I mean it. They talk daily, know every little detail about each other's lives, and act more like sisters than friends. It turns out Sarah was aware of the situation and apparently felt the need to tell people about our private issues. I'm not sure if she was looking for advice from my wife or just needed the gossip fodder, but it's messed up. Now, I'm not the type to usually care what people say, but this hit different. Here I am, trying to process this mess, and my wife's best friend is out there running her mouth about it. The fact that she knows means my wife told her, and that raises a whole new set of questions. What exactly did she tell Sarah? How much of this story does Sarah know? Did she know before I did? I confronted my wife about it that same evening. I tried to keep my cool, even though every part of me wanted to start shouting. I asked her, did you tell Sarah about everything that's going on between us? At first, she hesitated, looking away like she didn't want to answer. She gave me this weak excuse that she needed someone to talk to, that she felt so guilty and confused, and Sarah was the only one who would understand. She apologized, but it felt hollow, like she was just saying what I wanted to hear. You couldn't just keep this between us? I asked, barely able to keep my frustration in check. Do you understand how humiliating it is to have other people know about this? About what you did? She tried to assure me, saying Sarah didn't mean any harm, that she probably only mentioned it because she was concerned. But that didn't change the fact that this was our private life. And she chose to share it with someone who obviously has zero concept of privacy or respect for boundaries. In that moment, I felt like I'd lost control over my own life. What really got to me, though, was that I couldn't help but wonder how much more Sarah knew than I did. I asked her directly, did you tell Sarah about the first time? About how you got pregnant with our daughter? My wife's face turned pale. She stammered for a moment, obviously caught off guard. Then she said, no, she doesn't know about that. I didn't tell anyone, but the hesitation in her voice wasn't convincing. My mind was spinning with possibilities. What if Sarah knows more than I do? What if my wife's been lying to her, too? Or worse, telling her the real truth while feeding me some cleaned-up version of events? The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I told my wife that from now on, I didn't want Sarah in our business. I was done with her getting updates on our life and judging me through the eyes of her best friend. I told her flat out, if you want to fix this, keep Sarah out of it. This is between you and me, not the whole world. She nodded, seeming to take me seriously for once. But I couldn't shake the feeling that it was too late. The damage was done. Now, even if I wanted to get past this, there's a whole crowd of people out there who know way more than they should. I feel like every time I step out in public, there's going to be someone watching, thinking they know my story, judging me. This revelation did something inside me, broke down a little more of that wall holding back all my anger. My wife's betrayal was bad enough, but realizing that my life had become some sort of twisted story for others to dissect, that's on another level. I barely spoke to her for the rest of the night. I stayed in my corner of the house watching TV on mute, just lost in thought. In my head, I was replaying all these memories of Sarah, the way she'd laugh at inside jokes with my wife, the way they'd whisper and giggle whenever they thought I wasn't paying attention. All those years, I thought it was harmless friendship stuff, just girls being close. Now I'm not so sure. Now I wonder if there was always more being said than I knew. The next day, I woke up feeling worse than ever, a dull ache in my chest that didn't seem to go away. I went to work and threw myself into my tasks, tried to escape, but I could barely focus. I was distracted, paranoid, wondering if everyone around me could tell I was a mess. Paranoia is a weird thing. It creeps in slowly, and before you know it, you're looking over your shoulder, wondering if people are talking about you. By the end of the day, I made up my mind about one thing. I needed to get more answers, and I needed to know what my wife had told Sarah, or anyone else for that matter. It's like I'm trying to piece together a puzzle with missing pieces, but I can't move forward until I have the full picture. When I got home that evening, I felt this need to go through my wife's phone, find out what she's been saying to Sarah. I know it's wrong. That invasion of privacy isn't the solution here, but my patience is thin, and I can't keep sitting in the dark like this. I'm not proud of what I was about to do, but sometimes desperation makes you cross lines you'd normally steer clear of. When I got home that evening, I could barely keep it together. My wife had left her phone on the kitchen counter while she was upstairs with our daughter, so I took my shot. I knew I didn't have long before she'd come back down. And yes, I know it sounds bad, but at this point, what other choice did I have? The way I saw it, every answer she gave me felt watered down, like she was holding something back. I had to know if she'd been telling Sarah more than she was telling me, or worse, if there was someone else she was confiding in. I unlocked the phone, my heart pounding like crazy. I'm not a snooper by nature, but everything about this situation felt like it had flipped my life upside down. I started with her messages with Sarah, half hoping I wouldn't find anything, half expecting to see all my worst fears laid out in black and white. I scrolled through their conversations, trying not to read more into things than necessary. Some of it was the usual stuff, funny memes, random chats about work and daily life. But then, I hit a string of messages from a couple weeks back, right around the time she'd started acting weird. It was like a slap to the face. Sarah had messaged her, saying something like, "Did you tell him yet? He deserves to know the truth." And my wife's response? She just wrote back, "I don't know how to, it would crush him." I stopped reading for a second, trying to keep my head from spinning. There was this sick feeling in my stomach, a dread I couldn't shake. It confirmed what I'd suspected all along. There was something more, and she had been hiding it. The messages went on, with Sarah basically urging her to come clean, while my wife kept saying it wasn't the right time, or that she wasn't ready. It was like watching her dance around the truth, just playing for time. Then I saw one that nearly made my heart stop. Sarah had texted, "If he knew about everything, do you think he'd ever forgive you?" Everything. That one word kept bouncing around in my head. What did she mean by everything? I was holding my breath, scrolling faster, looking for more. But my wife's replies were vague. She kept avoiding Sarah's direct questions, just telling her she didn't know what to do, that she was scared of losing our family. At that moment, I wanted to throw her phone across the room. I couldn't believe it. Here she was confiding in her friend about her guilt, practically admitting there were layers to this that I hadn't even touched. And the worst part, she had no intention of coming clean, unless she was forced to. Every vague reply she sent to Sarah was a reminder that she was more scared of the consequences than she was willing to fix what she broke. Just as I was about to put the phone down, I heard her coming down the stairs. I locked the phone, set it back on the counter, and tried to act casual. My hands were still shaking, though, and I'm pretty sure she noticed something was off. She gave me a weird look, like she could sense I'd done something. I just shrugged it off, grabbed a glass of water, and acted like nothing was wrong. I didn't say a word to her that night. I couldn't. Every time I looked at her, all I saw were those messages, her admissions, and the feeling that I'd been kept in the dark on purpose. I knew I couldn't let this go, but confronting her then and there, without any solid proof, would just lead to another round of vague answers and half-hearted apologies. I needed to come up with a way to get the truth without giving her a chance to twist things again. The next day, I decided to reach out to Sarah. I know it sounds crazy, but she was the one person who seemed to know the whole story, or at least more than I did. If my wife was too scared or unwilling to tell me the truth, maybe Sarah could fill in the blanks. I sent her a message, kept it simple, just saying that I needed to talk about some things you might be aware of. I didn't even have to explain more than that. She agreed to meet up. When we met, Sarah looked like she'd seen a ghost. She barely looked me in the eye, like she knew that I knew more than I let on. I didn't waste any time. I asked her straight up, "What did my wife tell you?" I know she's been hiding things from me, and you know what I'm talking about. At first, she hesitated. She mumbled something about not wanting to get in the middle of things, about respecting privacy, but I wasn't having it. I told her that she'd already crossed that line the moment she started discussing my marriage with other people. Her face turned red, and I could tell she was struggling to decide what to say. Then she finally cracked. "Look," she said, taking a deep breath. She told me a lot, probably more than she should have. She went on to admit that my wife had confided in her about issues she'd been having, about doubts and regrets that she claimed went back years. And it wasn't just one incident. Apparently, there had been multiple times she'd thought about confessing, but was too scared to face the fallout. The more Sarah talked, the angrier I got. My wife had been hiding so much from me. Not just this one mistake, but years of deception. Sarah kept trying to justify her friend's actions, saying she was scared and confused. But all I heard was that my wife had been dishonest for far longer than I'd realized. Sarah said something that really stuck with me. She mentioned that my wife had felt trapped at times, that she didn't want to hurt me, but felt like she was living two lives. I didn't know whether to be angry or sad at that point. Here was the person I'd built my life around, who I'd trusted more than anyone, admitting to her friend that she wasn't even happy with the life we had. As I walked away from that meeting, I knew there was no going back. Whatever version of the truth she had planned to feed me wasn't going to cut it. I needed her to look me in the eye and tell me everything, every last detail. And if she refused, well, I'd have my answer right there. When I got home, she was waiting for me. She must have sensed something was up, because she immediately asked if we could talk. I looked at her, all the anger and hurt bubbling up, but I held it back. I told her, "Fine, let's talk. But this time, I don't want half-truths and I don't want excuses. I want everything. And I mean everything." She looked like a deer caught in headlights, but I wasn't about to let her off the hook. I sat down across from her, not even sure where to start. Part of me wanted to scream and demand answers, but I knew that wouldn't get me anywhere. Instead, I just stared at her, waiting for her to start talking. She shifted nervously, her hands twisting in her lap, and finally she whispered, "I don't even know where to begin." I wasn't in the mood for games. "Then start with what you've been hiding. No sugarcoating, no holding back. I'm done with half-truths." She looked down, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. "I didn't plan for any of this to happen," she mumbled. "It just got out of hand." "Got out of hand?" I repeated, my voice barely holding back the anger. Out of hand doesn't cover years of lies, months of hiding things from me. I deserve better than out of hand. I want details. It felt like she shrank into herself, like she was trying to disappear. But I wasn't letting her off the hook. After a long pause, she finally took a deep breath and started to talk. It started with just messages, small things. She began, her voice shaking. At first, it was nothing serious. I was lonely, stressed, dealing with a lot. And he listened. I could feel my fist clenching, but I stayed quiet, letting her continue. I wasn't here to listen to her justifying it, but to hear the truth. She went on, and then it became something I couldn't control. I never meant for it to go where it did, but I don't know. I was confused, and I couldn't just stop. And I thought I could handle it, keep it separate, but then everything got complicated. Her words sounded like static in my head. There was a bitterness in her voice, like she was upset that she'd lost control of her situation. But for me, all I could hear was betrayal after betrayal. I interrupted her. Did you ever think to tell me? Did it cross your mind that maybe, just maybe I had the right to know? She finally looked up at me, eyes full of tears. I was scared, okay? I knew you'd leave me if you found out, and I didn't want to lose everything we'd built together. So instead you just lied. For years. How do you even justify that to yourself? I couldn't stop the frustration boiling over. I gave you everything I had, and you were off living some double life. Her tears fell faster, but it didn't soften me. She sniffled, wiping her face as she tried to keep going. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I just thought I could handle it without hurting you. I was wrong, okay? I was so wrong. Yeah, well, it's a little late for that. I shot back, crossing my arms, feeling myself close off to her more and more. I'd heard enough apologies in my lifetime, but this one felt like nothing more than empty words. We sat in silence for a few moments, the weight of everything hanging thick in the air. Then, almost on instinct, I asked, so what's the truth about our daughter? Her face turned white. What do you mean? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. You know exactly what I mean, I replied, feeling the anger flare up again. I got the DNA results. I know she isn't mine. So why lie about that too? You couldn't even be honest about her child. Her eyes widened, and she let out a shaky breath. I didn't think you'd find out. And I was hoping, I don't know, that it wouldn't matter. That you'd love her regardless. It was like a punch to the gut. It's not that I don't love her, I said, my voice breaking slightly. But I built my life around a lie. You let me believe she was mine. You watched me bond with her, raise her, and never once thought I deserved to know the truth. I didn't know what else to do, she cried, her voice breaking. I was terrified you'd leave. I wanted us to be a family, even if it meant hiding things. That's not a family, I shot back, my voice as cold as I felt inside. A family is built on trust, not on lies and deception. She broke down, sobbing into her hands. But I just sat there numb. Everything I thought I knew about my life had shattered in the last few days, and I didn't know how to piece it all back together. I'd spent years building something with her, thinking we had a future, and now it felt like it had all been ripped away in an instant. After a long moment, I took a deep breath, struggling to hold it all together. Look, I said, my voice calmer but still carrying the hurt. I don't know what happens from here. I need time to figure out what I want, to process all of this. But you need to understand what you've done. This isn't something you can just sweep under the rug and pretend never happened. She nodded, wiping her face as she tried to steady herself. I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. But I knew deep down there was no going back. Even if we try to patch things up, there would always be this huge gap between us. This betrayal that I'd never be able to forget. I didn't say that, though. I just nodded, unable to look at her anymore. The next few days passed in a blur. I kept my distance, taking time to be alone, to think about everything. Every memory we had together felt tainted now, like a dark cloud hanging over every good moment. Part of me wanted to hold on to it all, to pretend this was just a bad dream. But the other part knew I had to face reality. In the end, I made the choice I knew I had to make. I told her I needed space, that I couldn't just move on like nothing happened. I packed a few things, left the house, and stayed with a friend for a while. She cried when I left, but I didn't look back. I couldn't. It's hard to explain the kind of hurt I felt. It wasn't just about the lies or the betrayal. It was about everything I'd lost. The life I thought I had. Walking away felt like the only way I'd ever be able to find myself again, to build a future that wasn't weighed down by the past. As for my daughter, I don't know what the future holds. I love her, and that will never change. But I need to figure out what kind of relationship we'll have. One that's based on truth, not on lies. All I know is that after everything, I deserve honesty. I deserve respect. And maybe someday, I'll find someone who values those things as much as I do.